All right. Well, thank you. Today is Wednesday, June 12th, and we are at our policy committee meeting. We'll just start with the 700 reviews. So the first one is 720, which is health and safety in district facilities and programs.
So I was gonna recommend that instead of 3 years, we do 2 years. Oh, no, wait.
Got it. Yep, the board shall review
Yep.
and approve the super safety plan every 2 years. Got it. It was highlighted just to, Troy, you good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Either one or two. But as you said, you update it actually every year.
We update it every year. Now this would be something that would be brought to the board, and I would bring it in June, just to kind of make sure everything is updated and stuff like that. And we do update with our insurance carriers as well as law enforcement every year. And that includes a district walkthrough, and obviously looking at policies and procedures and things like that too as well. All right, I will make that note. 722, reporting injuries and unsafe conditions.
I had nothing on that one.
You're gonna find that most of these are boilerplate WASB policies when it comes to safety plans and things like that. Again, 723, this one does have the same comment, Nicole, that
So
you
we'll go
made.
to
We will
2.
do every 2 years.
That was all I had on that one. Anything for you?
Nope, that's the same.
724,
IEQ, or indoor environmental, IEQ, indoor education or environmental quality management.
seems like you have that under
Yep,
control.
we do. We are required for that.
So we've already got a plan.
We have a plan. Yep,
So-
and it's all
so-
located
So
on our
basically, all
website.
for 24, 25, there's a plan.
Yep, correct. Yep, and that's all located on our website.
Okay.
Yep,
Asbestos was a good read, 725.
Yeah.
it's a great read. Yep. And we are asbestos free, so free, well, there's very little. We do have our maps and things like that, but very little left for that. And so, because it was when we redid the 75 section, and actually the last time we had asbestos was our stairways, when we did the stairway treads,
Oh, wow.
the new ones, yeah. We did a big abatement during that time too as well. 731, privacy in locker rooms.
All I had for that one was under .3. No person may use a cell phone. Do we want to say electronic device?
Sure.
Just so it's, whether it's an iPad, cell phone.
That goes with that same terminology. I'm gonna go personal electronic device,
A PED?
PED, yep. Because that is a policy around that too as well. I'm just
Okay.
gonna highlight PED. Got
That
it.
was all I had
Thank you,
there.
good catch. All right. Use of security cameras and electronic monitoring of equipment.
I had nothing.
Yep.
I did work with Jim on this policy, as we take a look at, as you know, we have exterior cameras and stuff like that about what the retention
Yep.
policies are, so. All right, drones, unmanned aircraft. Again, this basically would highlight that we are, unless it is authorized, we do not allow drones to do this too. And we do get requests every once in a while.
I know sometimes like, what, celebration day or
Celebrations
something.
days.
About like
if it's
Merton Athletic Association?
MAA.
Okay, so that's what I was gonna ask about.
Realtors sometimes ask when they're updating, the village may ask to update, so.
Okay,
Yep. So again, it's just, basically, if you wanna use a drone, please come and see us. Obviously, it's very difficult, if there is a drone over, we do the best we can to see, okay, where's that coming from?
yeah,
Yeah.
'cause people can drive drones from a mile away.
Yeah, but basically, it just needs permission to do
Okay.
so. Okay, 742, use of district equipment.
It's common sense.
Nothing.
Yep, there we go. Waste management and recycling. Oh, we need to, there's an underline there. Okay, basically that we do our very best we can to
Yep.
do what we can with that too as well. Student transportation services. Basically highlights that we are required by state statutes to, you know, transport students, and kind of highlights some of the requirements for that.
That was good.
Okay. Use of alternate vehicles to transport students. Again, just just kind of gives us the opportunity if in fact we do need to, if there's a small number of kids that need to go somewhere, there's a procedure in place to make sure that that gets okay and things like that.
Good.
Okay. All right, now alternate transportation policy. Again, I chose to keep this. This was in our other policy, basically
Yeah.
highlighting that if somebody does need a childcare arrangement and things like that, alternative, it would go there, just to keep that there.
Yep.
Okay.
Uniform is on the
And
back.
the form's on the back. You got it? Now, one piece that I did, let's talk about transportation. I just want to highlight one thing, just to make sure we're clear that we're not getting rid of
I
it.
had a question on that too.
Okay, so transportation in usually hazardous area, this is set by we work with the Department of Public Instruction as well as the Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
So, these maps are indicated on our website. This is something that typically comes up quite a bit, when it's like, well, how come I don't get bused?
Sure.
You know, there's the, you know, the mill pond, there's this, and ultimately we take a look at what's unusual. And according to Waukesha County, it's not unusual for kids to not walk on sidewalks, because subdivisions don't always have sidewalks. So this does highlight opportunities for people who can either challenge that, and there's a process in place that basically allows the school district and the community to reevaluate that unusual hazardous transportation plan.
So, and we're on 751.3.
Yep.
So my question was where it says or private school. Am I reading this incorrectly? The district plan shall address unusual hazards in areas surrounding any applicable public or private school. Should it be surrounding the school or the schools, or I guess I'm
Well,
struggling to understand the verbiage with public or private.
or private, so we have a responsibility to transport private school students.
Okay,
Okay, so that is our state statute, so we do transport kids, so if you live in our school district and you want to go to Divine Redeemer or St. Charles,
okay,
you can either access parent transportation, you could be underneath a parent contract, or a bus will come pick you up
okay,
at a designated spot. So that is all outlined in state statute that we
Okay.
work with Dousman on. Now, the reason why we highlight or private school, because we have had a private school within our school district boundaries before.
okay,
And for instance, if we had a private school, let's just say in Bark River Crossing, there's a private school there. We would not have to transport students if they are within the non-unusually hazardous transportation area. So that would mean that we wouldn't have to transport them.
okay,
For instance, St. Charles, obviously they can't make it, it's outside of 2 miles. Or if the private school was, say, on Dorn Road, then we would have to do everybody because
Okay.
it's there. So we keep private school in there because, believe it or not, we did have a private school a few years ago that was housed out of the Baptist church
oh,
up on the hill. They rented a space there, so. Little unknown fact.
now I get it. It was just, I kept reading, like rereading it, I'm like, what am I missing here? Okay, so then underneath that, it says, in evaluating and identifying possible unusual hazards, the school board, and then if you flip over, do you see where that says the school board?
Upon the receipt, which page are we on?
First page.
Oh,
Third tab down, in evaluating and identifying possible unusual hazards, the school board.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you flip to the second page, it says approval of plan amendments and authority, that bold. Then it says the board, does it need to, just for consistency, say the school board delegates? Or do you wanna remove school?
I removed school. I
Okay.
did actually, I took that
Okay.
there because inconsistent with all of our other
Correct.
policies. Yep, I
Okay.
took that out.
So that was
Yep.
my only,
Yep.
alright, so then that reads good, that's all I had for that one.
Good on that one? Okay. Now, before we leave transportation, I did just leave as a procedure the pay-to-ride program.
Okay,
So, we never had that in policy. The pay-to-ride program, we still would be utilizing. I did not put it back into policy, more as administrative rule, if that's okay.
I'm good with
Yep.
that.
Okay, got it. But that still is, just because it's not in policy doesn't mean it's going away.
Yep,
All right, 761, again, free and reduced, that's our school food service.
Did you have anything?
On that, no.
All I had is third paragraph down, the district administrator,
Oh, the district administrator shall designate.
yep, and then, the staff positions, business manager and or bookkeeper, I just did business manager. Business manager is the bookkeeper, no?
No, and or bookkeeper, because those are two separate positions. Sophie is considered our bookkeeper.
Okay.
And she runs all of those reports.
Got it.
And,
Okay.
works through that too as well, that eligibility.
Okay.
All right, use of copyrighted materials.
Nothing,
Kind of
because
mirrors a
we
little, yeah.
decided we're going with the board and not doing school.
Yep,
so we're good.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so that's our 700s. The last one we did bring forward too as part of, again, conversations with our policy committee. Troy, you brought it up, and something that's been brought up. A couple years ago, we instituted policy 363, which required any use of video to be approved by a principal. We since then have updated our literacy curriculums, our social studies curriculums, our math curriculums, and we already do have a big bank of approved videos that have been approved over the past 2 years. Through conversations with people, as well as the board, and particularly this committee too as well, what you see here is removing the mandatory part of getting a video approval to it being basically just like a supplemental material where we expect the teacher to have completely reviewed the video prior to showing it, but again, it is not required to get an approval of an administrator.
Optional?
Optional. It is still, it is still encouraged. The district strongly encourages that all teachers review all sections that they are apprehensive about with the building principal. So,
How many requests do you still receive, or do they receive?
last year Steve only got about 100,
Okay.
and Maria this past year was probably close to 200 to 300. I would say. Again, very short clips, mostly kind of with our littles as well.
So these are all coming from 4K.
A lot of
Okay.
our early learning that they would say, oh, we see
Fine,
something
clip.
new or whatever, it might be a little short clip, correct, yeah. But again, this would really put the onus back onto our teachers. And again, we do share the approved video library, if that's what you kind of want to call it, playlist,
Yeah,
with people. Again, we encourage them to reach out if there's anything that they have a question about too, so.
I look at this one as protecting the teacher, taking it off the teacher. I'm good as long as it's still an option, Troy.
All I've heard for the last 2 years is the board doesn't trust, there's no trust. So, this is giving trust back into our staff. So, one thing, in our employee handbook, it says if a teacher breaks this, what is the immediate, what was it?
It depends on what it is. We have a staff code of conduct where if in fact it gets, as egregious, we think of something involving around what would be termed CRT, critical race theory, for instance, which is called out in our policies.
Yeah.
That's why. There is an automatic, it's a 5-day suspension. If in fact something, it depends on the egregiousness of it.
Okay.
For instance, it would be up to the administrative discretion if we broke a human growth and development policy, for instance.
Or the X rating.
Oh, no, the X rating, that would be something completely different. When we talk about human growth and development, let's talk about it's 3rd grade, and a video is shown for something that may not be touched in our human growth and development, or may come up maybe in 4th or 5th grade. Again, if it's not, anything with human growth and development needs to be approved by the parent per all of our policies, and it's an opt-in into the program too. So, try to answer your question, it all depends on the severity of it, but again, there are some black and white things that fall into that.
My only suggestion would be, since we're putting this back into the hands of our staff, that we up the 5-day suspension to a 10-day, if anything is CRT. Just put more skin in the game for our staff.
Well, if we're gonna do that, then we'd have to bring back that
Mhm.
policy
That's what I'm-
to be able to, if you'd like to, we certainly can readdress that.
I'm saying that we're giving it back to them, so I think there just needs to be a little more skin in the game on that.
Okay.
If it
But we
goes
can
forward.
have a discussion about that. 5 days is pretty big. That's a big one.
That's what yeah.
We-
You're
we did-
tough.
No,
We did go
I'm
right to
serious.
that 5 day. Again, it's up, we can revisit that if you'd
Yeah.
like, Troy. We certainly can. I can put that back on for,
Can we do that as a discussion? I mean. it-
oh, what we can do is if we were discussing this policy, we can have a conversation as a first read with the board.
Okay.
And we can talk about it at that time too, to see if that's something that, because what we can do here is, or you can, you know, specifically reference it in here, into the policy.
That's what I was gonna say, is maybe it's laid out in here.
Yeah, if we lay it out as a procedure or whatever.
And I think maybe that's a full discussion for the board to say,
Yeah.
hey, and Troy leading that too, is just, hey, right now, if there's some black and white policies, again, I use CRT as an example, there's certain things in there, that cause for an automatic 5-day suspension, and either we can call it out, or is the will of the board to review that policy back and see if we wanna up the possible suspension.
I would put it in, add it in here, cause
And
then
then and maybe put this for review in 6 months?
cause then you have a discussion around it with the first read.
Yep,
And
Okay.
then, depending on where that goes,
Yeah.
you can go back
okay,
We can add to it, maybe tweak
to
it.
the handbook.
all right, yep,
Does that make logistical sense?
yep,
Rather than,
yep.
can you? is-
Well, that way it's pretty cut and dry that we can talk about it then, so I'm gonna
Right.
add that in, so.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reference the policy, Troy, in here.
Mhm.
And then that will allow the board then for your point, to say, hey, do we wanna look at changing that policy now that there isn't that safeguard in there, that there's a little bit more, to your point, skin in the game?
And will you add that to the packet so
I will add
everyone
it to the
has
packet
it?
so everybody can see it. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep, got it. And I think that's 5:22-ish.
So now, since this has been in effect, has there been any instances of unapproved videos
No.
being shown at
Well,
all?
not that, I
You're
can't
aware
say
of.
that, not that we're aware of, not that we are aware of.
Has there been videos Maria or Steve has said, no,
Yes.
doesn't meet the criteria?
Yep, it does. I wouldn't say meet the criteria of appropriateness within our policies. It really has driven some, is this really appropriate video to show content-wise, grade level-wise? Are there other opportunities that we have instead of this video? Kind of more of an instructional approach, but,
Cause the other thing is, and I get the entire trust thing, but we have a lot of new staff.
and we encourage people to use our core curriculums, and we feel that, again, we give them what they need. These supplemental things, again, we would really like it if it was something that is desperately needed, you come talk to us, and then we would, supply that to you.
As long as it's still an option.
Oh, it is.
And then
I think,
it's up to them.
yeah, I think we just review this too in 6 months, this policy.
That's fine.
We can, yeah, certainly. So to answer your question, nobody has really submitted anything, what I would say would deem against the curricular policy. It's been an instructional dialogue
Sure,
with the
no,
supervisor.
which is great,
Which is
because that's
great.
an opportunity.
Exactly, that's what we really enjoyed, that opportunity to
Yeah.
say, hey, is this really what we really need? But I will tell you, it really has cut down, again, we've said no to, what we've said no to is full-length videos, a lot of them. And just kind of looking at the age appropriateness, do we need a 20-minute clip, or is there 5 minutes in here that is most important? We clip it out, and away we go.
Okay.
Is there any way Benny can track like how much video is used or shown in a classroom?
I have to
I mean,
ask.
that's a question, I'm just curious.
And what about the ads? Have we gotten anywhere with removing ads or
Bring
have?
that back up.
Okay. Yeah, what are our options?
Yep, got it, we'll bring that back. Okay, all right, so that gives us some direction there, thank you. All right, next up on our list was, not employee, student handbooks. So, worked with Dr. LaFleur, Mr. Newcomer, Maria, as kind of taking a look at these, and again, I did not involve Bob, because he's still new in things, but I did highlight, there's just kind of little quick bullet changes on there. Basically update names and dates, but to be a little bit clear with all the policy work we've done, I've updated, again, you'll see all the updates in yellow
Yes.
for that too. So anything that's changed is in yellow, and again, you'll see that policy, homework policies, student code of conduct policies. You know, just kind of put a policy numbers to where it was needed from that standpoint. So let's just take a look at the primary school.
Okay.
Again, non-discriminatory language was updated, updated our technology, to Troy's point, PEDs, instead of personal communication devices, changed it to PEDs. Updated our non-discrimination. Now, I think we're gonna be okay with that, but again, depending on what WASB comes out with,
Sure.
we may need to do a quick amendment. I do believe we're just gonna reference the policy, and our general language should still be able to last through that change. So, again, nothing really huge. At the primary school, their culture and climate team spent this past year working on their behavior matrix, and they asked for that to be inserted into the back of the student handbook. And you'll see that in there too as well. And that was something that Dr. LaFleur, Maria, and the culture and climate team have been working on. Anything on the primary school?
Just how our pets animals at school, are we enforcing that? Like, we have signs as far as animals at drop off
During
and
school.
pick up?
During school.
During
This
school
is
hours.
During school hours.
This is
Now,
all during school hours?
like, for instance, we wouldn't allow a non-service dog to come in, and things like that.
Okay.
The only time where we do have animals here is, and does get approved, is 4K with their chicks.
Sure,
That's really
Their
truly
chicks.
outside of a non-service animal
okay.
with their chicks too, and they're here for about 2 weeks, and then they go home with
Chicks
other
don't
people. Exactly, yeah. So.
All
They
right.
peck, yes, we do. So intermediate school, again, very similar. Again, the one difference between the intermediate school is in the past, Steve and I would include Jay Posick in this, have, kind of outlined a little bit more student code of conduct type of things. So we did some updating on that, and that would be more on pages 10 through 12. And then you'll see later in there, and again, we kind of moved it more into the middle of the document. You'll see a whole bunch of deletions from the old stuff too as well. Again, this was more so working through our new policies that were updated this past school year and kind of highlighting them and kind of cleaning it up, instead of it being a 4-page discipline thing, or whatever, because there was a lot of redundancy. We just kind of got it down to about a 1-page summary. And then again, we did include the district code of conduct and discipline policy within the document as well. So from an intermediate standpoint, that's pretty much the only real big difference between the primary and the intermediate, but everything else is pretty consistent with what we have.
The only thing I'm gonna bring up for discipline is, and I've talked to you about it before, is I really believe that we should do in-school suspensions instead of out-of-school suspensions. Nowadays, I think it's a vacation for our students to be booted out of school, with technology nowadays. We have dual working parents, so these kids, it's a vacation. I think, we do in-school suspension, these kids have a little more skin in the game also. I think after a couple in-school suspensions, I think it's gonna stop. How many suspensions have we had over at the intermediate school this year?
I have to pull
Yeah,
that data.
I know it's quite a few, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's more than the normal, probably.
Have you
in the
seen
past.
an increase?
When talking to Steve, I wouldn't say that I've seen an increase of it, but again, there are two sides to that. Troy, certainly, and again, I understand, and we can take a look at and see if that's maybe a direction that we want to go to. I know we do issue in-school suspensions, but we do kind of do that progressive discipline, whereas once it in-school suspend, it depends. There's certain things that we will, again, in my mind, if you are physically fighting,
Oh, I understand.
that's an out. Now, chronic discipline, chronic disruptions, chronic refusal, you know, there's our progression, and then it would be an in-school or removal from class and kind of go from there. Out of school is something that is, something that we don't use all the time, but only in certain situations. I think it comes down to the parenting choice, is because in most cases, an out-of-school suspension should be, again, do we rely on the parents to kind of be the one who really reinforces what that expectation of that day or that afternoon or the morning might look like? We try to work with families, but you're right, we are seeing an increase in two income households. But it also, again, from that family engagement standpoint, if you have to leave work to come pick up your child, because we don't let them walk home, unless it's approved, obviously. If they're like, hey, they live down the street, the parent okays it, and we go through that process. But you're right, Troy, we do see and we do hear sometimes that when we do send kids out of school, it's all of a sudden they're jet skiing on the lake or wherever it might be, which is really too bad, so.
I don't know, I'd just like maybe possibly see it in here regarding, you know, in-school suspension / suspension.
And whenever we count suspensions, if we have an in-school or an out-of-school, it counts as a suspension either way.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
So maybe just the verbiage?
The verbiage, and then, you know.
I can talk to Mr. Newcomer
That's,
about.
and it's like you said, I think
Yeah.
that's a newcomer discussion also, but I just like to see it in verbiage.
Sure.
And then something that possibly.
What page are you on, Troy?
11.
Mhm.
Paragraph 4.
4?
Behavior violates district policies on suspension and expulsion. Somehow work in school suspension.
In school, got it.
Somewhere.
In school.
Because, okay, so if an in-school suspension is issued, who then is, obviously you're
We
not,
we supervise them.
correct,
We
so
super-
then who is supervising?
That would be the front office, because we
Okay.
would put them in a conference room or put them in an area. We actually have space right next, it was built.
Yeah, that little.
Little nook,
Okay,
where they're right there, where they just would do their work and things like that here. At the primary school, typically when they do come in here or, you know, in an office where they are, you know, somewhat supervised. And
okay,
they get work that they're expected to do and things
Okay.
like that too as well, so.
okay.
Certainly. But I think that's also a philosophy conversation.
Yeah,
Within our whole administrative
Exactly.
team too, but highlighting it in.
Yeah, I'd like to see
certainly.
it in there that if they know that, hey.
Mhm. Got it. Okay. All right, thank you. The last piece I just wanted to kind of give you an update on, and again, I got an email yesterday with WASB about where their process is in progress. I'll get more information on that. I don't believe that they're going to be ready for a first read for us. So the way it sounds is they're expecting it in July. So I am going to be asking if it's okay with the policy committee too to waive the non-discrimination, our policy around a committee read and then a first read and a second read. If we were to go through that route, we can't call a special meeting in July. We certainly can. But what I would be asking the board to do, since this is so legal, and when we start with this, there's going to be very little wiggle room
Right.
within districts. Again, like we've done with a lot of these things, we just adopt that, we know we're covered. If in fact anything comes up, we follow that process. But I can't promise, and I don't believe it's going to occur, that we're going to get a second read with the board.
We could just vote to suspend that
Yep.
policy rule.
Yeah, I think if that would be okay, that would be my recommendation, unless we want to bring the board together for a first read and a second read for something this legal, where there's not a
Right.
lot of wiggle room. We're gonna present it, and I'm gonna say this is what I would recommend from
Yep.
WASB. So we can always, we'll have that discussion at the policy, or at the board level too as well, but I just kind of wanted to bring that up with the policy committee too, so.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, because again, there's not gonna be a lot
I mean,
of,
every school's gonna readopt it now.
And every school's in this situation, believe me, WASB, and whether you're working WASB, Neola, or a private law firm, they know that this is out of character for districts not to have a policy or a committee read 1, read 2, so.
yeah,
They know where we're at, but they just wanna make sure they get it right. Federal law indicates August 1st, that it has to be approved by, so with that July 19th, or I don't know when we're
Sure.
getting together next time, but, so I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that.
okay,
Sounds good.
Suspend it.
I think that's the best route.
You just
to do
make a
that,
motion to
suspend it.
suspend.
The
that
policy
policy
and it'll be
for-
non-discrimination 113.
Okay,
Okay. All right, so what we have left, so we'd like to set another meeting.
Okay.
Either we can, if we want to, for July. Looking ahead, again, per kind of our last conversations, is trying to get as much policy work done during the summer if we can. We have the 800s. Yay. So, I'm gonna get my phone too as well, just my calendar. Okay. So,
School board meeting is on July 22nd,
okay,
right now at least.
Yep.
okay. Throw out some dates.
what about the week of the 15th?
Yeah, I'm actually in town.
Nicole, what are you looking at?
Right now, I'm good.
You're good? Wanna go Wednesday morning again?
That works.
Is today Wednesday?
Yep.
Today's Wednesday?
Yeah.
8:30?
Yeah.
Okay,
So July 17th,
July 17th,
8:30.
policy committee, yep. Now, my goal then would be to have the 800s to you guys, as well as that non-discrimination policy. Got it. Okay, perfect, and we will meet in this room again.
Got it. It's
All right.
on the
Okay,
calendar.
anything else you'd like me to add to that agenda at this time? You know,
I'm okay.
let us know. All right, you have that in your calendars. Okay, thanks again, everybody, and that concludes our policy committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.